Yo, it's the motherfucking Nerd Rap Podcast, and I am here once again, at work, ready to talk my shit. Salute to everybody. Tuning in. Today, I caught up with China Mac's response to Charleston White. I guess Charleston White, while reading that thing about him making wild comments about raping Chinese kids and babies. Again, personally, I don't care what Charleston White talks about other people who are enemies of the black community. I don't think people understand how intersectionality works and how racism and classism are often used in conjunction with particular groups of people believing in a capitalist mindset that often in turn perpetuates racist systems that keep stereotypes about particular people alive. I saw China Mac's response to Charleston White, which rightfully so. Charleston White has a very nasty vitriol about him and other groups of communities. But before I get into China Mac's very cringe-worthy ass response, because you definitely let it be known that you in another life you'll be wearing a Ku Klux Klan hoodie, bro. I'm just gonna keep it a band with you. But I will say this: I'm not the person who puts his fist up in the air and screams Black Power and advocates for the generalization and xenophobia and bigotry against other groups of people. I do not care about the numerous anti-black sentiment that exists in the Latino, Chinese communities. I don't use that as the basis for me expressing those same cancerous and supremacist-based mindsets against other groups of people. I understand the dynamics that the world in itself is colonized between the Latin community and the Asians that oppress black people in their own fucking country when they weren't even allowed to go into business in certain places of living because of COVID and were being blamed for it, even though it was literally the Wuhan virus that was developed in the United States. So if black people are more conscientious of the anti-black sentiment from other communities and choose to be a bit skeptical with criticism coming from that community towards black people, I understand our hesitance to deal with these people in a certain cultural aspect. But to advocate for stereotypes, to play on the stereotypes of Asians, to talk about killing children and raping women, people are people, and oftentimes we're all simply products of the societies that we're raised in. And there is a prevalent anti-black sentiment for hundreds of years. I mean, you can go to Karl Marx was openly talking about not dealing with niggers. There was Greek philosophers that spoke on, Aristotle. Numerous Greek philosophers, Indian philosophers, always talk down on niggas. We're animals and this, that, and third. Enslaving us. So they had to justify it with these stereotypes to say that, physically we may be matches, but there are differences, and all these differences were literally just fucking eugenics. So the reason why I don't really respect that response from a lot of black people to just have outright vitriol and xenophobia. Well, fuck them Chinese people. Don't give a fuck about them Asians and start calling them out their name and all these racial slurs and ethnics, calling them gooks and all this other shit that niggas do to other groups of people, and then want to spin it and be like, well, y'all oppressed us before. And while true, niggas definitely took part in their own select group of black oppression, and they took part in it on systemic levels, not in just the local store owner or some nigga down the street whoop your ass, which is still something to deal with. And that brings me to China Mac's response. The China Mac's response is, I guess he's going at while Charleston White's community and people who support him are attacking China Mac, and he's like, yo, why don't y'all like Asian people? Because we didn't give you duck sauce, we ain't the ones that hung you from trees, we didn't bring you from Africa, we didn't do that in the third. And when you start going down that line and start making those comments about certain things, China Mac, I had to turn that shit off at that point. Again, I know you're responding to a particular group of people who may be just saying that bullshit. There's a lot of, fake hotep ass niggas who feel like the moment they put a fist up and say black power and the black man is God, then instantly turns into supremacy. Just all over the place. Supremacist logic, fuck that, niggas, this is our planet, fuck them Asians, fuck these Latinos, it's just fuck everybody that ain't black. But what about those black people in the dead ass middle? What about those Brazilians, those Afro Indians, those East Indians, those Asians? What about all these people who still have to deal with the boot of white supremacy globally, but don't have the connotation to just specifically, generally just be called black? What then? And I think that's the bigger problem when we play into the same generalizations that ruled other people, because now we're simply just perpetuating white supremacy. All of it's based on a Eurocentric standard that puts niggas at the dead bottom. When Arabs enslaved us, it put niggas at the dead bottom, white people at the dead bottom. When white people wanted to start chattel slavery, they just flipped it around and put themselves at top, and the darker your ass got, the closer to the bottom you got, until you got to niggas. That's just the way it's always been when it comes to world powers that want to subjugate a group of people. That's just how it's been. And all they did was emulate someone who was already doing it, and they established their own and built an entire society based on white supremacy and niggas at the dead bottom. Asian people who come here are coming here oftentimes from communities that the only way they're even viable people here is that they have either money and resources coming from another country, and they came here affluently enough to start a business, or while they're starting those businesses, in turn, they're putting all their resources into that due to the fact that they don't have the economic viability to get jobs, get certain government incentives that other people can have. So in being denied those things and being able to find their own foothold economically, they perpetuate the narrative that as a whole, black people just don't work hard and don't manage their money well. When in the reality, a lot of these other cultures would not even have fucking economic commerce if niggas didn't shop with you in the first place. But I digress. But the major thing that bothers me with these types of conversations more than anything is that for someone like China Mac, this isn't the first time you made like tone-deaf statements about blackness and, like Asian people, how black people harass Asian people, which again, I'll be the first to tell you, I've been around niggas who harass Asian people is what it is. Niggas definitely pick on people for being different, make fun of them. I've seen witness to that, and as a community, we have exhibited the same xenophobic behavior that has raised us in America. There's no denying that there was an inherent danger of Asian Americans being attacked during the COVID era. There was concentration camps in the United States for Japanese American citizens during World War II. There has been concentrated efforts during the railroad immigration of Asians where they were mistreated horribly. So it's never to say that Asian people weren't discriminated against, but the problem with Asian people is that they played into white standards of social acceptability, to where they play to Eurocentric standards and respectability politics of being model minorities, thinking that makes them impervious to the boot of white supremacy, when in reality they're just staying the fuck out the way. So they look at niggas and black folks, because we're often purported to be criminal and violent based on media and based on everything you see on TV, and they go with that. And so that influences their view, and that influences the business that they do with people like that. But then vice versa for a lot of us black people who exhibit those same racist and xenophobic behaviors towards Asian people, is when you get a level of understanding and there's initial anger before the nuances of realizing a lot of these people are conditioned and colonized just like we are. They're just dealing with it differently. And when people like China Mac make ignorant ass comments like, we're not the ones that hung you from trees, we're not the ones who did this. No. But you oppress a group of black people in China right now, and you were denying business, health services, and other things to black people during COVID in China. Where was your advocation for the black Chinaman that was being treated a certain way? Where's your admonishment of the anti-black sentiment in the Asian community, in Asian countries where there are dark-skinned Asian people, like Indonesia and other places? India and other places where colorism is still a very real and prevalent societal issue. It's a social caste system. China Mac likes to skirt around the racism of the black community and say, yeah, Asians were racist, and you kind of like to skip past that, but then also noticing that he also had some of those beliefs himself. He just had black friends. He like hanging out with his nigga friends. These niggas is cool. But then your response to Charleston white supporters, who, mind you, if you talking the internet enough versus just talking to street niggas, which don't make up the majority of our fucking population, and I'm tired of y'all talking to 3 or 4 niggas who be in a gang and think you spoke to the large general consensus of black people, but they completely skip past black academia entirely. So the moment that we're having these discussions when niggas are too woke, and that's the criticism, looking at China Mac's response on his live, you got supporters of him saying they're mad at you because they're woke and broke. That's why they're doing things like that. Believing the stereotype that niggas are financially irresponsible when there's no even quantifiable data to show that at all, nor our spending power or how we spend any more than other people. There's literally nothing to quantify this notion that our buying power is $1 trillion. Oh, well, the Asian community dollar stays in based on fucking what? What quantifiable evidence do you have to show that this Asian dollar has moved in the Asian community 10 times? How do you know that? Who counted that and quantified that? What institution collected data and did the research to do so? Niggas didn't even know how to quantify that. It's literally a marketing strategy when black companies or white companies selling black products want to try to convince niggas to buy something that's black. Well, if you buy black, you feel me? You buy black, put a black face on it, we're spending money thinking we're helping the larger black community. And we're not doing shit for the black community because we're not doing anything for social change and social reform. We're not slashing budgets for other things so we can put it into the community. That the Asian community, none of that. None of that at all. Niggas just think being entrepreneurs is going to be the way to save everybody. But this notion to say that we're woke and broke, whoever that was on China Mac's live stream, bro, put the percentage of Asian-owned companies versus black companies. You would be surprised. And again, you're still an oppressed minority, playing into that model citizen type to condemn other people who, quite frankly, whether we play into it or not, we're not given a cause and we're looked at differently. The typical Asian man, and this is just by a stereotype just done with looking at other Asian YouTubers speak on the same thing as well, is that oftentimes they're not even seen as masculine all the way. They're seen as not fully masculine. Black men are literally seen as raging beasts from birth. What we're going to deal with is different no matter what respectability politics we play. I can wear a suit and tie right now, and the moment my eyebrow scowl, I'm instantly seen as a threat to somebody's safety, even if I ain't do nothing. But as I say, for someone like China Mac, like you with the Citizen app, you made it for Asian communities to be able to report on crime that go on in their communities. You know what I mean? And mind you, crime is based on poverty. So if you're in a poor Asian community, you know, crime's gonna be there, whether black people or Asian people. The only thing I say is, and retort, I just want someone like China Mac to realize that in your response, you kind of show that you still have a lot of biases towards black people. Like, even when you got into it with Math Hoffa, you held Math Hoffa to the standard of, thought you was a real nigga, bro. And how would you have Taxstone? You know, you had, what to do, Troy Ave going up there talking about an open case and thought you was live or this and the third. And I felt like you going publicly to admonish somebody for who they had on their platform, I just felt like the way in which that was done, it was like, why as media is he being held to a certain standard? Because you're saying, yo, I thought you was a street dude and street that and a street nigga and this, that, and the third. And it's like, bro, he's a human being. Like, you think because we grew up in a certain environment and we rolled a certain way that niggas don't get older? And two, most importantly, as someone who's actually, new banger, I don't really think he needed to make sure that certain things weren't spoke about for your sensibility of what a street nigga should do versus the nigga who actually knew banger. I fuck with you, China Mac, and an extent of you standing up for your people. I just, and unfortunately, people from our community antagonizing you with racial stereotypes, it's only so much you can take until you respond in kind. But at the same time, it's one of those where you kind of exhibited that already, and that'd be our bigger criticism. When we have other minorities who partake in hip hop culture and be around niggas and hang with niggas and be chilling with niggas, but secretly don't fuck with niggas. You kind of gave off those vibes. I'm just keeping it a band. Like you hang with niggas, you puff L with niggas. Niggas ain't coming to your house. They ain't about to meet your family and shit. I don't know. That's dead as hell. There's a lot of minority groups that do that around their black friends, and all we're saying is because of your response, that's the vibe we got from you. I got a vibe of I hate these niggers, but then the next day when you get calm, them niggers is alright. I got that real vibe from you trying to Mac. I'm just gonna be 1,000. And on that note, just to switch topics and get to something else. No, I'm gonna talk about that in a separate podcast. But salute to you guys. Salute to you guys for tuning in. This is just my response to China Mac and Charleston White and how I feel about his response. I feel like Charleston White's a cancer. I'm always going to stand on that. He's a cancer to the community. I don't care what he advocates for and speaks on how other people oppress us. And this is a man wishing death on our children, spreading black capitalist nonsense, and still being a proponent of using the police to weaponize against black people. He's worse than a Karen. I am not an advocate for gang culture, but what I am an advocate for is you treating black men as an inherent enemy who did nothing directly to you, who only call you out for your reckless speaking on people's lives and people who are already dead, regardless of the crime they committed, and hell, the devastation in our community. Their family members, their uncles, cousins, and grandmothers who knew this person, they still deserve the level of respect because they are not inherently responsible for the actions of one individual. And as a man who does community work and you repeatedly go out your way to disrespect children and women, I do not respect any notion of you talking about the community, Charleston White. Simply for the fact of, in a moment's notice, you can talk about assaulting women, and then you take that as he's just trolling and that's just a character. Your character is literally a stereotype of niggas. You talking this verbose, loud, angry language, and your excuse was you heard a mother refer to her child that way. You heard a verbally abusive mother talk to their child away and he listened. But I've listened to parents who talk to their children respectfully and still convey the same information. But you in your heart believe niggas only listen to a certain rhetoric. It ain't the fact that niggas ain't listen to you respectful. Young people don't listen to old niggas who try to talk over their head or try to talk up or down to them instead of talking to them, instead of asking them, instead of getting their perspective. Stop trying to teach them a method of living from your antiquated and archaic ass sense of what respectable Negroes should act like. Because before the gang culture was prevalent in our fucking communities, niggas were still committing crimes and poverty was still causing a rise in crimes before gang culture really took over most black communities in impoverished environments. We have to stop that. Before Bloods and Crips came on in Chicago, those gangs formed out of poverty. But you're not addressing the real issue of where these gangs spawn and come from. Hell, you have gang members who came together to stop the violence, that they realize they're in a perpetual cycle of self-destruction because they're fighting in blocks and spaces that not only they don't own, but aren't built to sustain, functioning lives. Like, you'll keep bringing up how niggas be killing niggas, but not going to bring up that the national violent crime data shows that since the 90s, there's been a steady decline of violent crime. Oh, it's 356 murders this year alone. It's 50 fucking states in the continent of the United States of America. And did you get the numbers from other places? Did you get Britain's numbers? Australia's numbers? Russia's numbers? Their murder numbers? Their homicide numbers? What are we comparing this to? Do we go to white impoverished environments and get their murder numbers? Because what's funny, if you look at the statistics of violent crime, black people make up 31.7, I think, and white people make 61.4. So when we're saying that black people are constantly killing each other, committing violent crime, that's not true. Most black people committing violent crime are in impoverished environments, and most violent crime per capita are not committed by just mostly black people. But this notion that we're violent is still perpetuated. And you know what perpetuates this bullshit? Niggas like Charleston White. And China Mac, just because he may have got you in this win, that don't mean niggas is defending him. It's just that you're just as problematic for similar reasons of believing in black propagandist media that has been the bane of any social reform in our community. And that's it. That's all I got to say. China Mac, stop just hanging out with your black friends and start being conscientious of the way certain things you say can be interpreted by the average black person. Listening to your responses, reinforcing negative stereotypes because you feel as though, you know, you're being attacked. So fuck it. That ain't it, big dog. With the motherfucking Nerd Rap Podcast. We out.